Good evening. Hello, beautiful ladies, and welcome back to another Women's Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have returning our Queen of Cups, Amy. Thanks for joining me, Amy.
Hello, lovely to be back. I really enjoyed last week's episode.
Great, I enjoyed it too. And for the first time, we have Haven Woods. Thank you very much for joining us.
No worries, it's nice to be on.
Is your profile picture a hen or a cockerel? Are you a cross-dressing profile picture?
No, this is a female chicken. Cockerels have much bigger combs even than that.
Okay. What did you call it? The comb.
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 Is the sort of bit on the top of the head, the big red bit, and then underneath are the two wattles. I'm gesturing at my face, which is entirely unhelpful because I'm not on
Like
camera.
this. The wattles and the comb.
Yep,
Am I
the
doing
wattles
it?
are underneath.
Chop, chi-chop, chi-chop. Have you ever seen Arrested Development? That's it. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get right into it tonight. I was in a shop. I'm going to share that, in fact. I was in a shop recently thinking this would be a great topic for Women's Hour. And the name of the shop was Flying Tiger Copenhagen. Depends if you're from Copenhagen or not, I suppose. But I made a little video to share with you guys to demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about. So if you don't know, Flying Tiger Copenhagen it's kind of like a micro IKEA in the sense that it's a kind of Scandinavian shop where you're bombarded with so many extremely delightful, sweet little toys and interior decoration pieces. It's all very cheap, and you're guided around a little kind of labyrinth to get to where you want to go. And I forgot to I was going to open by reading this brilliant piece that Amy sent to me. I think it was in The Spectator, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just describes it perfectly for anyone who hasn't actually not been in there. So you just watch this video. I'll put it on a loop, in fact, if I can. Is there a loop option? There is not, so you'll just have to... sorry, but this is not all Flying Tiger, by the way. Since I started taking these videos, thinking I wanted to do this for Women's Hour, I looked around for more shops that are like this, where they sell like these very colourful, girly interior decoration sort of bits and pieces. I can't exactly describe what I'm talking about, which is why I'm using images, but I started taking more. Let's play it again so that you can...
It's tat.
Tat, exactly. It's completely tat. So let me just read this for you briefly. There is a tiger on the loose. It is stalking our high streets. It is prowling our train stations. It has cubs in every shopping mall. It is the tiger of tat. And when it roars, bye. Tiger, a home accessories chain which opened its first UK shop in 2005, is an emporium of the ephemeral, a grand bazaar of the banal. Here is everything you never needed: oddments and sodments, party bits and barbecue bobs, plastic flotsam and cardboard jetsam. Come buy, whoopee cushions and avocado stress balls, spangled hula hoops and fingerless yoga mittens, cheerleaders, pom-poms and sequined bow ties. There are walls of coloured playground slime, tubs of gunk in lurid colours. Everything is something else. A sellotape dispenser in the shape of a frog, a duckling nail brush, a banana pencil case, a pineapple lamp. There are lid lifters, then a wooden spoon when a wooden spoon won't do, like warthogs and spatula rests. Who knew? Like sharks. In this modern wonderland, nothing is the right size. Playing cards are all as tall as books. Pentank balls fit in a matchbox. Marshmallows are humongous, colossal, XXL. I went to the Tottenham Court Road branch for an ironing spray bottle and came out a quarter of an hour later with a paint-your-own puzzle kit and a packet of spangled sink scourers. It took 10 minutes in minimalist Muji to recover. I won't read the entire piece, but it's just wonderful, by Laura Friedman in The Spectator. A beautiful, very vivid description of what it's like to visit one of these shops, especially Flying Tiger, because it is so cheap that you're just tempted to buy. Let's just get that away. Amy, I got the impression from you that you were much less tempted by this tat than I was. There's something deeply feminine inside me that like is absolutely delighted by all of these things and yet does not want to actually buy them.
Well, I'm in kind of like a weird situation in which I grew up around a lot of clutter and I hate clutter. Like, I like nice things, but my mum collects antiques essentially, and so I can't go anywhere. I've never been able to go anywhere with that in our house without just having stuff in the way and stuff falling on my feet and stuff getting like in the way of the things I want to get at. So I guess like for me, it's like I've got an aversion to small bits around the place. Like, I like shopping and I like nice, beautiful things, but it's the lots of little bits. Just I need cohesion, I think. So I would say that's just a result of like my temperament and what I grew up with.
Okay, Haven Woods, are you tempted by Flying Tiger Copenhagen or any of its sibling shops?
I was a bit. I certainly used to be, less so now. I tend to be a bit more. I like buying storage solutions for stuff, even though I don't necessarily have loads of clutter. I like buying useful things to put things in, which is a stupid thing to have too much of. But
this is a sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, this is the thing she said at the end of the quote that Poe read, when she wrote, I needed to go to Minimalist Muji to recover, which is essentially the same shop as Flying Tiger, except everything isn't colourful. That's the difference.
It's
calm. I think that sort of women putting things in Tupperware boxes is also like the equivalent sort of urge, I would say.
Yes.
So
it definitely feels like the kind of continuum from Tiger. Not Tiger, that's a very different situation.
The reason I wanted to bring up this shop, the realization that I had when standing in Flying Tiger, I too went in there for a birthday card of all things, thinking this looks like a nice jolly place to buy a jolly birthday card. There actually weren't that many on offer. But I went in there for a specific purpose and found myself just tempted by everything in sight. I just wanted to buy it all, and yet I knew there would be no place in my home for it. And looking around, there was a lot of young women in there. Like, I'd say that their core demographic is women from the ages of 18 to 28, 30. And it's basically childless women who have disposable income of their own, who conceivably have their own, if not just their bedroom or their dorm room, they might even be living independently themselves, away from their parents. But I couldn't imagine decorating your home in this sort of stuff if you live with a man or if you have children yourself. Even though it is so childish, I couldn't actually imagine women with children wanting to buy this stuff. And as I went around with my 2-year-old daughter, I had to keep going like, no, don't play with that. I know it looks like a toy. These are not toys. These are for adults. like everything in that shop looks like it's a toy for a child, and yet it's for adults. And to me, it completely summed up this move that I've seen amongst usually consumer products, but just also movies and art, in our entertainment and our lifestyles, that is catering more and more to people with disposable incomes who don't have a family of their own. You know, they are like the title of the stream is they're adult children basically. They're adult in the sense that they have money, they have their own space that they can decorate and do whatever they want with. They have free time, they have independence, but they don't have a kind of a grown-up outlook on life, I'd say. And I know that I'm sitting here with two ladies who are themselves childless, and I'm not trying to. I have to vastly overly generalize for clickbait, basically. But the fact is that there are more and more, I think, more adults who are adult in name only, who have all of the tastes of children and who like to indulge that side of themselves. Like I say, in the art that they consume, their entertainment, their lifestyles, and they have this disposable income that they may as well just spend on delighting themselves to death. Any thoughts on that, Amy?
I would say that the impression I get is that the money that's being spent in Flying Tiger is not disposable income. It's income that that should be going towards either is to saving up, whether that be saving up for to have a family, to upgrade your life essentially, and that also includes having nicer things in your surroundings, right? To not have like, cheap tat in your surroundings. And I'd say what Flying Tiger appeals to most of all is like cheap impulse purchasing, and misdirected impulse for people who are unsatisfied and they want dopamine hits. Because it's
I think that's
Go on,
definitely
Haven, what's
true. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. It's kind of wanting that kind of that quick kind of thrill, that feeling of buying something. I think particularly those shops when they're aimed towards women, I think almost kind of target that nesting instinct, kind of like the obsessive collection of storage solutions. It's sort of you want to sort of tidy and make your space nice. But if you're not having children or looking towards having children, for example, you don't have to worry about, is a 2-year-old going to swallow this? Is this actually a sensible thing to have around, or do I need something that my child needs? So it's this impulse to make your space kind of safe and cozy and pleasant, but you're not able to kind of direct it into your family because you kind of don't have one. I think it also kind of ties into like the pet parent thing.
I was about to bring up the same thing, yes.
Yeah, and people talk about being plant parents as well, which is caring for something that needs even less responsibility. Although I did once kill a cactus, so maybe I'm not the right person to speak to.
You're less nurturing than a desert.
I overwatered it, so...
That is how you kill a cactus, yeah. Loads of things there that I wanted to bring up. Not least the fact that the desert ties into the secondary topic that I want to bring up later about the absolute antithesis of all this is the philosophy of the book Dune by Frank Herbert, which I finished recently and I thought was brilliant. And I kind of kept having it in my mind, like, you're wandering around Flying Tiger Copenhagen thinking, like, I wonder what the inhabitants of Arrakis would make of this shop. Go on.
I think just before we move on.
No, I didn't want to move on. I was just foreshadowing the later topic.
I just think with the little bits, like you show pictures of inside the shop, and there's like, realistically, there's nothing, pleasant or aesthetic, or it's superficially pleasant, but there's nothing. There's that you were in the shop, you touched the objects. They're extremely low quality items. They're like, it's like Poundland, and there's nothing beautiful or attractive about these things. You're not going to have these things in 2, 3, 4 years time. I don't have an issue with like buying a nice like item for your home. It's having the lots of just little bits which are not going to keep on. Like my parents have furniture which they've had since they moved into this house when they were in their mid-20s, right? This is you're buying something that is of a higher quality, so it can be actually used, and its quality won't go down. It'll stay beautiful. It'll stay well made. These things aren't beautiful. They aren't well made. They aren't well designed. They're just tacky.
Yeah. I think you're right. I wanted to mention what Havenwood's brought up about pet parenting, as they call it these days, and the way that I think young people now, they, like you say, they have this nurturing instinct and they funnel it towards their pets. And these people might intend to have children one day, but for now they like have a pug, or they have a cute animal that they want to take care of. And I don't know if you've seen these pushchairs for dogs. You seen these people pushing around their dogs in pushchairs?
Yeah.
But it's not a pushchair designed for a baby that they've repurposed. There's actually a gap in the market that's big enough that this pushchair manufacturer has made a little baby carriage for you to push your dog around in if they're, I guess, too old to take for walks, or if you're going in a shop, I guess, that's a bit, safer to put them in a pushchair. And it's just, there's so much. I think having a pet is in some ways seen as like it's the flying tiger of of parenthood, where you get that quick hit of adorableness, and you get the feeling of nurturing something. I'm not saying that having a pet is not hard work, and certainly if you raise a puppy, you have to train it, and it feels a lot like parenting in some ways. But people, they get these pets, and then their life is filled with caring for the pets. And then I think some of these people find that their life is now too full to have children, and they don't know how how having babies is going to like slot into this life they've made full of the house full of tat and their dog in the baby carriage.
And I think people do also kind of displace a sort of nurturing instinct onto having pets. I've known a few people who were very kind of proud of being child-free. And someone in the chat mentioned this kind of weird evangelicalism about being child-free. And it's this sort of, like, they clearly have a nurturing instinct, but they've got this idea that they don't want to have kids or can't have kids. And I think it's actually more, they've got that instinct, but they've kind of misplaced it almost, and they're kind of focusing it on pets. And you see people kind of go completely mad with it into this kind of infantilizing and anthropomorphizing animals that aren't human and don't react and don't respond like humans do. I saw someone yelling at her dog in the street the other day because it was kind of barking, and she was going, "If you don't shut up, we're going to go home." And I was like, you're talking to it like a 3-year-old. It doesn't have the cognitive capacity. It's a dog. But yeah, there's a sort of weird parenting impulse that people somehow have bought into this idea that they shouldn't or can't or won't have kids, and that they're fine with that because they've got pets. Or even the weirdest ones is like people who've turned it into like plant parenthood, which I said before, I've seen a bit more of people like, oh, I've got loads of houseplants and I'm a plant parent, here's how to be a good plant parent. Instagram is a mad place to go for that kind of thing.
Before we go any further, I should mention that we are soon, I think next week or possibly the week after, we are finally going to get around to talking about Mary Whitehouse, because we had a lovely super chatter suggest that as a topic. If you would like to be a lovely super chatter who suggests a topic, you can send your super chats to this stream, and whoever pays the highest amount will get to have their topic addressed by the panel. And we give as much attention and research and thought into the topic as we think it deserves. So suggest carefully. But at the moment, we have no bids tonight. So if you donate, if you choose to bid, even I think the lowest is like £2 you can do. So if you want to pay £2 and get your topic on the show, you may be in with a chance tonight. So good luck, happy bidding. And
Poe is incorrect. We put in as much care and attention into the suggestion as the amount of money you put into the super chat. What are you on about, Poe?
I don't want people to pay us like £50 to address the question of are traps gay.
Yes, you do.
I have some dignity left. Thank you, though. And yeah, so before we talk about anything else, I think it was worth, while we're bashing on women and the misplaced nurturing instinct, I think it's worth looking at the converse, the opposite case of men who are they're kind of indulging this sense of adventure and hero worship by going to see these like Marvel movies and Star Wars and buying these TV shows and just really overindulging in video games as well that actually make you feel like you're more of a hero. And I think this you see the same kind of consumerist attitude towards these things where you get, I'm not saying it's all men obviously, but you get these markets that are targeting these men who probably don't have children to, you know, buy the merch. You know, you have to buy the Thor's hammer or Captain America's shield. You have to buy the Funko Pops or the posters, and as well as actually spending money on at the film, they also make loads. You know, these like toys that they make for film tie-ins that are like collector's items. They're no longer toys for children to play with on the carpet and make believe. They're these toys that just sort of stay on the shelf that are for grown-ups.
Yeah. I think it feels to me like that there's, as you say, it's sort of hashtag not all men, but there are a large number of men who don't, similarly to women of the same age, don't seem like adults. You know, if you think about, you know, the sort of 25-year-olds sort of 50 or 60 years ago, the level of kind of responsibility and capability they'd have had, just whether that's, you know, knowing how to, I don't know, mow a lawn, do some basic DIY or housekeeping, fix a car, or just, you know, be a functional adult human being. You know, 60 years ago, sort of 25-year-olds would have families and be married, and now they're kind of waiting for the next probably slightly crap Disney Plus movie to come out and explain why it's supposed to be a bit rubbish, but that's cool though. And I don't know how much it's frustrating to see, and I think it becomes a vicious circle, in that I think women want someone who feels like a provider, but at the same time the kind of feminist movement has created a generation of infantilized men, and therefore you don't find someone that you think could actually provide or sort of be an equal partner for. So everyone ends up in this kind of weird pet parent / Funko Pop collecting, like, permanent childhood. That was really incoherent.
Well, no, it wasn't. That was great. Before we do have a super chat from DRT is King for $15. Thank you very much. This is a small question, probably not a topic for a women's hour, but I'll try and answer it here. Why do women who play Warhammer gravitate towards Tyranids or Orcs? Sisters of Battle, Eldar, and other armies who you'd expect to have more female fans don't. I don't know how to answer that. Maybe we'll do it in another time, because I only know what about half those things are, and only that barely. But I just wanted to mention that I think that 40k and painting miniatures is not cringe. It is in fact based, and that's not one of the infantilized hobbies that I was talking about. And it's completely different, and it's cool, and more men should do it and hang out together and paint their miniatures and play their little war games.
I think that. I might be wrong about this, but I think our generation and the people who are at the older end of our generation are the first people who have really had things marketed at them based on media from a child, from the age of children. So I kind of think that kids' TV shows at the moment and films at the moment and the way they have been for like the past 20 years are basically just adverts for products for branded products you can buy. Like it's like they exist secondary to the products you can buy. And you see this when you go to aimed at extremely young children, right? You go into shops, and you probably know about these things more than me, Poe, but there's two specific things I notice a lot. One is like Cocomelon, and another is Paw Patrol. And you can get Paw Patrol like toothpaste for children. You can get like everything. Everything for children is branded. And our generation really is the first generation that had that from an extremely young age. And I think that's quite relevant in the younger generations. I just think didn't have that. They had toys and they had like books, and maybe they had TV shows, and these were all separate things. And then I think the nature of work has completely changed in the way that it's completely saps you dry mentally, to the point where you just do not have a lot of jobs. a lot, especially the sort of mid-range jobs where you have where they're slightly higher paying. You need to you need a degree from like somewhere that's not like the University of nowhere to get the job. and those jobs they're so unnatural in the way that they
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm only creating some visual interest for the people who are watching and as well as listening to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, a tail feature says they had Ghostbusters toothpaste in the 80s. It's nothing new. Yeah, they love that Ghostbusters.
Even that is relatively new, I guess.
Yeah, well,
and I think
the
with a generation that's grown up with it, that's the point really, is that it's this sort of constant stream of marketing of buy products related to whether it's a children's show or it's the latest Marvel thing or whatever. I think that's what you're saying, is it's kind of for the people who were kids in the 80s, you know, that's when it kind of started being targeted at our generation and kind of driving us into this funnel of just sort of constant consumerism.
And titillation and things just all becoming one big blob. And then there's also the completely unnatural environment in which most like men and women are supposed to be operating in. This leaves you completely mentally drained to the point where you can't. I don't think a lot of people that I see just can't. You know, they don't have the mental capacity anymore to do things of any worth in the outside. It's just they go home and they numb themselves in whatever way that is before that they go to work the next day at like 7 o'clock in the morning to commute for an hour to sit in front of a computer. And
sure.
You know how much time they spend on the toilet monitored by their manager.
Can I tell you about Paw Patrol briefly? Because that's a very interesting question. So, Paw Patrol is universally loathed by parents and loved by children. It's extremely obnoxious and loud, and like it has this like annoying theme music that plays not only at the start and at the end of every episode, but they also play it during the episode when something exciting is happening. We just hate it. But in a weird way, I do rather think that it might be better to have children's entertainment that is just for children, that the adults don't like, rather than what we see now with things like Star Wars, where it's like children's entertainment, but it's actually like they're trying to get adults involved in it, and the adults are actually the ones who are like bringing their kids along to it, going like, this is the thing I loved when I was a kid. And you have like so many children's shows these days are full of like kind of sarcastic humor that's there. When I say jokes for adults, I don't mean like sexual humor. I just mean something that's a little bit subtle that the parents can kind of chuckle at a bit. It's kind of hard to describe, but even like Peppa Pig, which children love, has a lot of these kind of, you know, slightly ironic jokes that parents can enjoy. But I do wonder if like maybe parents getting too into these cartoons is, you know, itself kind of a problem.
I don't think it's the media that's the problem. I don't think it's it's the childishness of. I don't think there's anything wrong with childishness in adulthood. I think that there's nothing wrong with. I've got a quote by C.S. Lewis, which I'm going to read. So, C.S. Lewis is obviously most famous for writing children's books, and he said that a large part of his conversion to Christianity was a reversion, he overcoming his aversion to childishness. So, critics who treat adult as a term of approval instead of as a merely descriptive term cannot be adults themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire the grown up because it is grown up, to blush at the suspicion of being childishness. These things are the marks of childhood and adolescence. And in childhood and adolescence, they are, in moderation, healthy symptoms. Young things ought to want to grow, but to carry on into middle life or even into early manhood, this concern about being adult is a mark of really arrested development. When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret, and I would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. And I think that like is getting to a point in which I think the sort of childishness, that not becoming jaded to life, having an open mind and the ability to just enjoy enjoy simple pleasures is necessary in people of all ages. And I think that the issue comes with the quality of the culture and the quality of what we're supposed to achieve in life, when it just becomes this whole sort of artificial blob of consume and repeat, like consume, boredom, repeat, just oscillating between the two. You're really no more than like an animal or like the sort of, it's just so, this is this amorphous goo of life. Yeah. Whereas I think that these childish qualities are necessary. I think that they're necessary for a good and healthy adulthood, essentially. And I think that what the issue is that the quality of culture for children and the quality of culture for adults has sort of, as a whole, gone down. And I think that that's led to this sort of malaise, I guess, in people, like a spiritual malaise, I guess.
I'm so glad you read that C.S. Lewis quote, Amy. That's a really nice passage. But also, what I hate is when I hear people quoting C.S. Lewis. They quote the when I was a child, when I was a man, I put away childish things on its own in isolation, which almost means like the opposite of what he was saying in a way. Like the actual point he was making was more subtle and more wise than that. But people just use when I was a man, when I became a man, I put away childish things as a way to mock men who enjoy anything that's childish or innocent. But I think that the best way to enjoy childish things is in the company of an actual child rather than in isolation as an adult. That would be the optimal situation, is that you get to enjoy in Christmas, for instance, all of the joy of presents and Father Christmas and the wonder of that, or like going to Disneyland or whatever it is, to experience that with a child means so much more than as a jaded adult and just sort of indulging that inner child from yourself. When there's a child with you who's experiencing all of the wonder of that for the first time, it's all the better, I think.
I think wonder at the world and seeing beauty in the small things of life in the way that children do is not everyone can have children, not everyone will have children, and your children grow up and you'll have periods where you won't have children in your life. And I think that it's necessary to keep that openness that children have. Like children have those impulsive, wanting to, being titillated by bright colors, bright noises, and seeing something and wanting it. But I think that, like almost everything else in our culture, what is happening is things appeal to the base emotions without enjoying this sort of simplicity and complexity of life, and it's just this sort of vegetable impulses that are indulged.
It's very surface level.
Yeah.
So I think I talked over you, Haven Woods. Was that something you wanted to bring up?
I can't remember what it was. I got distracted by the C.S. Lewis quote, which was just absolutely nailed.
Bombshell. Brilliant. Love C.S. Lewis. I think we all do.
Yes.
Maybe we'll have our own sort of deepest
childless man.
Yeah. No, yeah. For anyone who didn't see me apologizing earlier, I do have to write the titles for my streams in the mind of clickbait. That's the theme of sort of unpopular opinions, is that I have to make broad generalizations so that people will come into the chat and be mad at me. But I think I do think there is something to the fact that having children is one way that many people do reach what I consider to be a fully responsible adult stage in their life, and in the sense that when you grow up and you have to pay bills and pay your rent or get a job, or all of these like very adult things, voting or whatever. I don't think any of, for me, all of those things felt like I was still kind of pretending to be an adult, and nothing inside me had changed. I was still the same like childish soul, looking out and doing, like, pretending to do grown-up things. But then having a child and having to put someone else before myself all the time, to constantly be at the beck and call of a child, kind of really changed my own identity to the point where I really felt like I'm not just a grown-up, like I am the grown-up in the room. Like I have to make decisions for this person and take care of them. But I don't want to get all preachy or whatever, just saying that people have to have kids.
Was that like the instant you became pregnant or gave birth, or was that like a gradual process?
I think it was quite gradual, where, you know, for a while it kind of just felt like I was still figuring it out, that, you know, it still felt like I've been, you know, somehow slipped into this situation, and that I had to grow up pretty quickly to be level with it. And we have another super chat. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, my mum says, she still says that, you know, my mum's like 58. She says that she still feels like she's just like a child trying to pretend to be an adult. You know, she's got kids and responsibilities. She looks after her parents, and you know, she's had her own children. I guess like maybe it's just a feeling some people have.
There's an element of like that sort of child, that sense of yourself as a child probably never goes away. And I think I'm trying to find the right words for this, that it's not so much that having children is the only way to sort of quote unquote grow up, or that sort of not having children or not sort of achieving that means you've failed, but more there are people who may be childless or child free or whatever, who still kind of lead functional, well-rounded, kind of non-numb lives, but that for so many people who probably would otherwise kind of not be sort of going down this sort of slightly nihilistic, numb route, you know, 50 years ago would have kids, would be leading more kind of, I suppose, rounded adult lives where they are being that adult in the room, are now getting that distraction with the kind of urge to consume the sort of flying tiger stuff or the kind of Funko Pops, that kind of, it's a distraction and a substitution for a kind of deeper need that we have.
And I see people with children on a almost daily basis who just seem like children to me, who buy into all of this, the Marvel stuff and the consumerism and getting like the cool new pair of trainers. Like I see that all the time. Like,
Very
you know,
true,
I work in the public, and I see people with, and I think that the main offenders I found out are people who work in phone shops. You know that the person with like, it's Moob City in there, and they all have like really overpriced trainers, and you could tell they all love Marvel. And it's like, you know, these are people are adults, and you know, about 50% of them probably have kids, and it's like, you know, they still buy into it.
No, you are right. I think, and yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if I really had anything more to say about Dune, other than other than the fact that I since I've read it, I think about that way of life a lot. That sort of extreme. When I was reading it, I kind of figured out something about male psychology that I didn't really understand before. Like, I think men really like the Dune book, not all men obviously, but it's a very masculine book, and I think what draws a certain kind of man to a book like Dune, or like, you know, the 40K universe, is that extreme hardship and this psychology that develops in the people who live through this hardship, who live on this completely desert planet, where survival is the only virtue. There's either being dead or there's there's doing absolutely everything you can just to survive. And I think men generally just like to read about rules, you know, about like, these are the things you have to do to survive. They like to read about cool battles and fights, obviously. But I think it's, when I was reading that, there was this bit, the only bit I wanted to bring up on the stream, even though I knew that the other women probably wouldn't want to talk to me about it. But there's one, I was like a few chapters deep into the book, and I was kind of unsure about whether I liked it or not. And the one of the Atreides men is talking to a Fremen commander. So the Fremen are the ones who live on a desert planet, and the Fremen commander says that they have some men had to retreat into a cave on Arrakis. They were being attacked by I think the Harkonnens, and the Atreides guy, he says like, are they going to be okay or something? And the Fremen commander goes like, if they went into a cave with only one entrance, then they deserve to be dead. Like he's saying this about his own friends, like, if they went somewhere where they couldn't retreat, they may as well be dead. Like they should be dead for making a mistake like that. Like he's like says it like dead seriously that like if you don't have the tools to survive, you don't deserve to survive on Arrakis. That's the only law of the land. I just thought, wow, that is so cool. Like I want to read this book.
It's on my list of things to read.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I got so much out of it that wasn't in the film adaptations, even though I liked the Denis de Villeneuve adaptation.
Was that the one that came out last year?
Yeah, that was cool. That's why I wanted to read it. But we did have a few super chats while we were chatting. One I can't find, but it said it's from Mike Smith for £10. Is simping gay? I think that was his question. Is simping a bit gay? What do you think, Amy? You've got an opinion on this?
No, I think no one hates women like gay men.
True. Do simps really love women, or are they only using them as a kind of transactional being?
I think they have an image of women that they like.
They like women saying their name and reading out their questions.
Exactly.
Isn't that a bit like liking women? Yeah. No, it's certainly not gay. I think if my husband was doing that for another woman online, I'd be I'd have some raised eyebrows. I'd be asking
him.
I'd wonder why he wasn't spending that money on me, to be honest. Why has he got this money, this spare cash to like spend asking Lauren Southern a question? That he should be asking me. I have opinions. But yeah, of course we love our super chatters. Certainly not gay. Very straight. Maybe the straightest thing you can do at all. But if you are gay, that's fine as well. We do enjoy our gay super chatters. From DRT is King for $5, who was the one who asked about 40k earlier. Why do you think women gravitate towards things that on base they wouldn't like orcs and Tyranids? I don't know. I know what orcs are and Tyranids. I don't know what attracts women to these things. I really can't tell you. I mean, women are. You want me to say that they're sexually attracted to Tyranids or orcs? Like what?
What are these things?
They're 40k armies. What do you call them? Armies. So they're like a flavor of Pokemon. They're like it's like an electric Pokemon or a fire Pokemon. Or
I know nothing about this. What I want to do is I want you to give me like a list of a description of what these are, and I'll do like a Mystic Meg interpretation of why women like this. I'll put a turban on.
You say that, but we did have people on Twitter who were quite excited about the idea of doing a women's hour about 40k. So what I was thinking was that we could ask my husband, who knows about this stuff, to write like a top 10 interesting facts about the 40k universe for us to read out and like interpret and we can rate the different armies or something. I only know what he's told me because he makes me watch these videos. We don't have a TV, so we just watch YouTube, and he's always watching these videos about like why did the Catan leave the whatever. Like I don't understand anything I'm seeing. It is pretty cool though. What I do see sounds like it's a cool universe. We also have Tune In Dropout for $20. Thank you very much. I'm a childless adult and do not agree the experience of being a parent forces one out of self-centered frame. That is something I have to work at on a daily basis. Sorry, I just want to make sure I understood that properly. This guy is childless and he agrees that being a parent forces one out of self-centered frame. At least temporarily, that's what I found is that. You're not the center of the universe anymore.
This is clearly not the case with the amount of like just you see these people, right? You see women who use their children as pawns in divorce proceedings, right? You see people who see their children as something that are impediments to just having an easy life and having consumer products, right? I think you're being too generous towards other people. Like, just because you think this doesn't mean other people do. Doesn't mean the majority of people do.
It's not what I think. I think when you're probably right, and I know why you think that, because you see these people out in the supermarket or whatever, and it looks like they're really not giving their. They're still being just as narcissistic as a single, a childless person. They're using their kid as like a fashion accessory or whatever, or they're otherwise just being extremely immature, despite the fact that they are parents themselves. And you'd be right about all of that. But I think on a basic level, if you're changing someone else's nappies, if you're waking up in the middle of the night to deal with that, these are things that you really, really don't want to do. And you're probably doing something else with your time when it happens. But unless you have like a serious support network, like you have a full-time nanny who's there to do all that stuff for you, like a kind of like a upper class family might have had like 100 or 200 years ago. I think there's on a basic level, you just have to commit your life to someone else, even if they're still just as obnoxious as they would otherwise be.
Are you sure they're not doing that because they can't literally just leave their child in squalor for fear of being, if not socially isolated, then just being arrested for child neglect?
No, because they do it in private. But
it's not in private, because the people see. And they know people are going to see. They know when you take your kid out in the street, people are going to see it, and they're going to know that if it's like grotty and smelly. They're going to know if your child like doesn't turn up for school. They're going to know if your child turns up for school like stinking or malnourished. Right? People know, and I think it's just social. I don't know. Maybe it's just like me being extremely misanthropic, but I don't. I see a lot of people who I'm like.
Well, I think we'll have to agree to disagree, but I appreciate your your viewpoint as always. I think there's anyway. Let's leave it behind for now, because I did want to have, since we're talking about parenthood, we only have 10 minutes left. Haven, did you have something?
I was just going to say I'm a bit distracted by what Anthony G is saying in the comments.
This one or the next one?
Yeah, both together. That we're essentially, I suppose he was looking at the symptom rather than the cause, almost, of the sort of, I suppose, the decadence of the sort of perpetual children.
Full-on cultural and ethnic genocide, fundamentally mischaracterized by these ignorant fools as nothing more than nihilism and decadence. You can't make this stuff up. Thanks, Anthony G. But since we're talking about parenthood, unless there's something absolutely burning that my panelists have to say, that I did want to quickly move on to a webcomic that has gone kind of viral this last week that I just had to share.
Oh, yes.
So this is... we've had the Weekly Laney before. What new viewers of Women's Hour will remember, the Weekly Laney was a segment we've done a few times looking at the comics of one Lady Molnar on Instagram. We have a new Laney whose name, Amy, this is a weird coincidence. It's Mary Catherine, which is also the name of a Mary Cat from We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Cat,
yeah, Mary Catherine. I wonder if it's, I don't know if she's old enough, she's young enough to be named after that book, or if it's just a coincidence.
Someone posted a picture. This is the woman who did the peach.
Yes, the peach.
Yeah.
We'll get to the
someone posted a picture of her. She seems like late 30s, so probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we'll ever know, but
I think Mary Kate's seems to be a really common name in America.
Mary Kate, yes, you're right. So before we start completely lambasting this woman, I thought it was worth bringing up her most recent comic, which I would have to say is completely on point as far as I'm concerned. Just for anyone listening, this is a comic called Pizza Servings: 2 slices before you have kids, 3 slices while pregnant, and the entire pizza while breastfeeding. people always say you're eating for two if you're pregnant, but actually the fact is you're eating for two if you have an exclusively breastfed baby, you're eating for a much larger baby than you were when you were pregnant, and people don't really get that for some reason.
And it keeps growing even more.
Exactly, yeah. Until they start taking food or formula or whatever you do. So that's kind of self-explanatory. But I wanted to. This is another breastfeeding comic. So basically, the main difference between Lainey Molnar and Mum Life Comics, also known as Mary Catherine Starr, is that Mary Catherine Starr has, I think, 2 children, and I think she's a bit more talented at drawing because she actually draws her comics rather than like tracing them that like Lainey seems to do, as far as I can tell.
Lainey traces her drawings?
It certainly seems like she does, yeah. Or she uses that as a basis for the drawing. Whereas this seems to have some actual artistic talent, even if it's a bit kind of a bit Quentin Blake, you could say, like a bit rushed. It's got that kind of effortless kind of line work and painting.
It's got that faceless Glomo Hobo thing.
It does a bit, yes.
Where they Glomo Hobo, where they don't have a face for some reason.
She can't draw faces, so there you go. So this is just about how women get judged for breastfeeding, no matter what they do. I don't want. This is her getting upset because everyone was being mean to her online about being. But I wanted to get to the ones where she's being mean about her husband. But this is the first one that I saw, so I don't know if this is what made her go viral. But she's basically like extremely judgmental. Like if you have problems in your marriage with your husband, fair enough. But this woman, she complains about her husband for the whole world to see in a way that is not very charming. That people took issue with.
Has she tried talking to him? Do we know?
That would be way too well adjusted.
She said, she actually says in some of these posts, if you read this block of text that she posts with every single one, she says that they have talked about it, I think.
You don't get attention for talking to someone discreetly.
Yeah.
You're too insane.
So this comic is just about how she carries more bags back into the house from the car than her husband does, for whatever reason. It does sometimes happen in my, as a married woman, it does sometimes happen that you happen to pick up the bags before your husband does, and so you end up carrying as much as you can, and he carries what's left. It just happens that way sometimes.
I'll be honest, I make my wife carry most things.
Alex and my ex both will argue me into handing things over. Is that like not normal?
It's very you got some very chivalrous men there, Amy. We're all awfully jealous, but we live in a post-feminist society now.
Maybe you should write some comics about it.
Well, the thing is, I do have some more sympathy for this woman than I do for Lainey, because I think she's hitting on something that's basically kind of true. We'll go to the peach one just because that one was so popular. Yeah, here we go. One of the many differences between me and my husband. She looks at a peach and says, "Oh, look, the last ripe peach. I'll save it for the kids. They love peaches so much." And the husband looks at it and says, "The last ripe peach. I'll use it as a special treat for my daily smoothie." Like, she's so considerate and he's completely oblivious.
Wow. She's like the 21st century proof rock.
Well, I think this is a completely unjustified thing to complain about because she, as Count Dankula pointed out, she's just made up a rule in her own mind and then gets mad at her husband for breaking that rule, having never told him about it.
I have done that a few times. I've had to learn the lesson that actually human beings can't read minds.
Yeah, it's hard.
And my partner is relatively patient, so I've kind of learned that actually if I'm annoyed about something, rather than having a flipping tantrum or doing an Instagram comic about it, I should try talking to her. Funnily enough, that works.
Wow.
Where she went wrong was marrying a guy who drinks smoothies.
I hadn't thought of that. But I think this is the basic truth that she's, I think, observed, whether this is actually an accurate depiction of her marriage or not. I think there is something about female psychology that tends to be... I don't want to make it sound like all women are generous, but I think women tend to think of others first before themselves. And when I say think of others, I don't mean doing something nice for others. I mean, they will literally think of another person. They're more likely to think about other people than men are, for instance. So whether it's like choosing an outfit, they might think about like, oh, this, I'm going to see this person. Like, what are they going to think about it? What is this other person going to think about it? Women, I think, just spend more time in the brains of other people, like trying to anticipate what they're going to think, what they're going to do, and how they're going to react to what she herself is doing. Whereas men will just, see a peach and want to eat it without thinking about his wife or the kids necessarily.
What this woman is thinking is, what can I do performatively to get lots of attention? And that thing might be like, act like I'm doing something that's really good, but that's not what she's thinking. I refuse to believe that what she's thinking. And I saw those pictures of her. She looks like a bitter little leprechaun.
You think this woman does not get any pleasure from her children eating a peach? Any simple delight from giving her children something nice to eat?
I'm highly skeptical that this woman has a good bone in her body.
You're so harsh. You may be right.
People deserve to be judged harshly.
To be judged. Well, if Mary Catherine Starr wants to come on Women's Hour, I for one think she would make a great guest. Before we move away from the peach, I want to bring up my favorite. This has been memed into oblivion, but this is my favorite meme. Let's just remove this quickly, and let's share. This should only take about 30 seconds, guys. Just wait and talk amongst yourselves while I try to figure out this.
I don't know if she's a housewife or what, but I do.
I can't even zoom out. I'm such a boomer, guys. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Let's zoom out. This is just the Padme and Anakin meme. Just had a nice snack. You saved the peach for the kids, though, right?
I saw one where someone went through like all of her comics and put the Giga Chad's face over the man and the crying Wojak over hers.
That was good. Yeah, that was very good. I think you may have seen the Lotus Eaters podcast about this, just like I did.
No, it was just on Twitter.
Okay, let's. I've gone and closed it now. That's probably enough of our friend Mary Cat. I said everything I wanted to, but thank you very much for being judgmental, Amy. I do appreciate, because you taking the heat from it makes me feel like I can be nicer, and the fact that you're here to back up the trucks in the chat. I actually do want to share this last one, because maybe this will, and I know it won't convince you, but I wanted to just say that I genuinely do relate to some of these comics in the way that she intends them to be relatable. She wants other mums like me to relate to her comics, and this one is. So this is every exhausted mum's posture when she pees in the morning. So this is just a mum slumped over the toilet with her hands in her face. And when I first saw this, I observed that the only thing missing from this picture is actually, is it? Oh, there we go. Yeah. So then the kid appears and says, "Mummy, you ready to play with me?" Our bathroom is quite small, meaning that when you sit on the toilet like this, if you lean forward and a 2-year-old comes in and opens the door, it will just whack you right in the, like hit you in the knee or in the head, which often happens in the when I'm in there. If the door is not locked, and if the door is locked, my daughter will bump, knock on it and go, "Mummy, why is this closed? Why are you?" It is motherhood. It is kind of relentless. Once the kids learn to crawl or to walk, they will just find you. Like, they will come and seek you out wherever you are. You will never get a moment of peace while they are, unless they're sleeping. And there is something kind of. That's the real toll that motherhood takes, is that there's no like one thing that you do that is really difficult. It's just like every day, 24 hours a day, you're always on, unless you get a babysitter for a few hours.
There's nothing in any of these cartoons that I've seen that reflects any of the joy that you find in motherhood, though, Poe.
No, you're right that it's just another one of those things where I think she gets more attention from saying how it's like more relatable and cool to complain about your life than it is to genuinely share about the good things that are happening to you, because our culture kind of sees those things as boastful or somehow
Insensitive, I think.
insensitive, and like you're bragging about your wonderful family when so many people, like, oh, what if an infertile woman is watching this? Isn't that going to make her feel really bad? You posting your beautiful baby, or like, oh, how would you exploit your family like that? Like, showing them online or whatever.
I think that's another thing where a lot of those kinds of comics where it's like quote unquote relatable, sort of contributes to this narrative that having kids kind of destroys your life as a sort of independent sort of human being, and therefore kind of makes people, I think, it's part of a sort of wider tapestry of other causes and symptoms and so on and so forth. But I think it's part of the puzzle that makes up why people are, particularly women, are wary of having kids, because it's this sense that you're kind of losing your identity. And because people don't seem to put across the positive in the same way, because they're wary of, seeming insensitive or boastful or whatever, I think people are kind of shut off from this narrative that actually it is a good thing, and that it can be joyful and positive, and it's not all just a complete sort of slog and painful and full of death.
But we're taught to believe from, like, it's just our sort of default position as when it comes to sort of thinking about like human nature and society, is that we're all independence is the natural state of being, which is not true. Like you're not independent. You're born independent. No, you're born completely dependent, and you will die completely. You're going to born needing someone to like wipe your ass for you, and you're going to die with needing someone to wipe your ass for you. And that is just a fact. That is just the fact of life. And I think that the illusion of this woman, this completely inane, banal woman, thinks she has some sort of independent identity is sad that she thinks that she has that, and that she finds that having children takes away from this thing that she has, which she doesn't actually have. Does that make any sense?
Since we talked about Screw Tape Letters, we talked about C.S. Lewis. I did want to bring up something from the Screw Tape Letters that I thought was really interesting. As someone who doesn't like really believe in God in like a supernatural sense, I still got a lot out of reading the Screw Tape Letters, which are about sort of believing in God and about being a Christian. And something that it says in there is that people really resent having their time taken away doing things either for other people or getting engaged in like social situations that they weren't prepared for, or just having their time like taken as if like their time is theirs. But I think the point in that book is that you're if you were truly aware of the glory of God, and you were really willing to if God appeared to you and asked you for 24 hours of a day of your life, then you could do, you would love to serve him in that way. And if he then gave you an hour and a half every day to do whatever you wanted, you would be eternally grateful just for a little time to have a little break. And that really spoke to me as someone who I do really treasure my time. But really, I think your life isn't really yours in that way. You're not just free to spend it doing whatever you want and watching Netflix and shopping in Flying Thai Copenhagen. You can spend, if you find a few minutes in a day to spend on yourself, then all the better for you. But really, if you spend your whole life serving, not your whole life, but if you need to spend a few years of your life dedicated to motherhood, and to really truly nurturing children and trying to do it well, that in my opinion, that's a life well spent. Even if you never get any rest, and even if you never get to spend any time on yourself, it just makes you all the more grateful for those few minutes a day where you can truly relax and pee on the toilet undisturbed or something. We have a super chat from Howard Shunova. Howard Shunova. That's $20. Childless people have no vested interest in the future of or of any cultural institution, or in the education of children. Therefore, they should not have the vote and should not make any decisions regarding children. Thank you very much
I think
for that.
we've been giving childless people a bad rap. All right, and I've talked about this extensively in the Women's Hour group chat, but like I love this spinster. I love like the old lady, the sort of archetypal crone, right? And
Why not?
I was no, the good old fashioned spinster, right? We need to make spinsters great again, right? And I was like, the Elizabeth Bowen book, The Hotel, and it was like everyone's like born to be like a certain age, and I think that my age to be is an old woman, because like old women can get away with murder, they can like do whatever they want, and as soon as I'm 65, my reign of tyranny will begin.
This is literally you, Amy. This is you. Cool, why not?
No, I want the picture I sent you of the cat sewing box, like.
Yeah. I remember that.
I'm just thinking
in the
Miss
St.
Marple.
Teresa's charity shop. What's her name? Yeah, Miss Marple, or like I can't remember her name.
Queen of Spinsters.
Anita Bruckner. That's the kind of spinster I want. That's,
Maybe that could be
old-fashioned sort of post 2 World War spinster, where there was like not enough men to marry.
All right, for $10, we have I think this is our first topic suggestion of the night, other than 40k, which we will do at some point. For £10 from Sir Garnet, potential topic: thoughts on the plot of The Taming of the Shrew.
Nice.
I like it. We'll do a Shakespeare review, and we can watch 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a modern take on it.
As long as we do Titus Andronicus, or as long as you do Titus Andronicus at some point in the future.
Well, you're certainly invited back on if we do. So you had that little slip there and said we. So.
Sorry,
I think we should do The Wife of Bath. Have you read that poem?
I haven't.
Or Heavenwards? Oh, that was good.
I love
Did that
as
in
in the
school.
Chaucer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? I've got a new Stream Deck that my husband got for me, and these programs and buttons. If I push this one that looks like money, you won't be able to see it, but it opens up all my super chats, so I can see if I've missed anything. Isn't that wonderful? So everyone in the chat, say thank you to Mr. Poe for buying me a lovely Steam Deck. And look at this. Can you hear this?
Is that like Is that like a speed dial for your computer?
I'm putting you on hold. That's what I'll do next time I have to find something to bring up on the screen. I'll just put some little like waiting music for you to... Oh, here we go. DRT is King has left us some more. Why... what is that? It's more why marketing seems off in certain regards. Not for autistic men, but how women in particular go for things. He's still asking about the 40k in a slightly cryptic way that I don't understand, because I don't understand 40k. Okay. The autistic men who like 40k presumably, but women in particular go for things that, I guess the women that do go for non-typical things, like why do they go for those things? I mean, 40k is really not a typical thing, so I guess within the subset of women who do play 40k, he wants to know why they...
I thought you met your husband in a Warhammer shop.
More or less, yes. But I didn't. But I was only there because I had friends who played Warhammer. Okay. I mean, more or less. I wasn't always the confident. What do you call me? I wasn't always as you see now. I was once a lot more awkward around talking to men. So I had to indulge in these sort of cool guy hobbies that I thought would help me, get a boyfriend. And it worked. So I'm gonna write down all of those super chats from DRT is King. I'm gonna give them to my husband and let him interpret what he thinks it means.
I think you should let me back to you. Put my turban on and do it myself. I'll be good.
Yeah, we'll get you to interpret the 40k law one day, Amy. Was there anything else tonight? Oh, so the English Loyalist also sent in the super chat. I'll read that. I don't know what this means. Real life greats like Wellington have done more than any Marvel character could ever do. All this return of reboots and re-release of stuff, of toys and games is more bread and circuses. It scares me. Yeah, I believe it Wellington was he had like a rock star status when he was alive. Like he was really, he was like a dreamboat for teenage girls. Am I confusing him with someone else, or I think I've heard that. People used to celebrate real heroes, but now our real heroes are all problematic. No, I meant real life men.
Oh, sorry.
They're all like from a racist era, and they don't believe in pronouns and non-binary people, so basically can't celebrate anything that they did.
Imagine ripping a picture of the Duke of Wellington out of Girl Talk and retacking it on your wall.
Well, I know it was probably paintings back then, but I don't know if they were doing like little sketches, like little sketches of the Duke of Wellington to kiss at night before bed.
They almost definitely did sell things like that, like little on the street corners and stuff.
What's it called, Amy? Those little those tiny little profiles that you used to get like in
Cameos.
a locket almost.
Cameos or miniatures?
Cameo, yes, exactly. Thank you for supplying that. Although I know that wasn't Amy, but I also got one from the very first live chat, super chat of the night was from Parisia, who I've just made into a spanner to help. We had some porn bots in the chat last stream, so I had to make some mods to get on top of that problem. So I hope it's been all right this stream. He did leave a super chat, but I thought it was mildly subversive, so I'm not going to read it. Sorry, Parisi, you can have your money back if you want it. I know you didn't mean it in that sense, but it perpetuates a meme that I absolutely do not want to address on the stream.
Okay.
I've done too much already to bring attention to it. So I think that's all the super chats then. I was going to refresh the page just in case anyone arrived. Let's have our inspiring music. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And I hope we'll see you again next week. Please follow Amy on YouTube and Twitter. And Havenwoods, is there anything you'd like to plug? I'm going to turn this down a bit.
You're triggering me.
I have nothing much to plug other than my partner's YouTube channel.
Go ahead.
It's Proper Horror Show. She's actually currently streaming somewhere else.
We've met!
Yes!
I didn't realise we met!
I'm hiding behind a chicken, but yes.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Secret identity revealed.
Doxed.
You
yeah, Proper Horror Show talks a lot about horror films, and I occasionally crop up in either the chat or as an emergency last-minute guest on her channel. If I've said anything interesting tonight that's not communist, then you can go and hear me there. I think someone accused us of being communists earlier, so I'm going to weep over that in private.
Thank you very much. Yeah, do check out Proper Horror Show, because that channel is criminally undersubscribed and far better than a lot of media analysis content on YouTube. And I would know because I watch a lot of media analysis on YouTube. And finally, from the English Loyalist for $4.99, Wellington was a ladies' man. You need to read about him. We need more Poe's law. For those of you who don't know, who didn't perhaps see my short this week, or my tweet is Poe's law. Poe's law with an E is that some people's opinions are so outrageous that they are indistinguishable from parody. Poe's law without an E, which is mine law, is when you're going under the stairs, watch your head. And with that, I'll say goodnight. Thank you very much for everyone for joining, and